couple of current Carolina students joining us now for our student section segment. John Wagoner, Claudia Chakamian they're going to graduate soon. So if you like their takes or you think they might have a bright future or you need some cheap employment, I think they are here for you. Just hit us up on the Shepherd's Glass inbox or the Love Chevrolet phone lines, and we'll pimp them out for you here this morning. How you guys doing?
Great. Beautiful morning.
I'm doing fantastic.
That was nice of you to defer to Claudia, by the way. You did look to her and it's ladies first kind of thing.
I've been trying to up my positivity as of late. I'm trying to be. People tell me I'm too negative.
Okay.
A little bit. I get a little pessimistic at times. So trying to make a lifestyle change. But
he did come in this morning sans a jersey. Which
No
was
jersey
nice to
today.
see.
That was me.
no, because I texted her right before and I
Good
was
for you,
like,
Claudia.
should I keep the jersey joke going? And she said, no, absolutely not.
Well done, Claudia.
Yeah.
You
And
are
again, I'm
making
trying
us
to be
better.
positive,
Wow.
but I wake up this morning and I saw this poll and I think it's ridiculous.
Okay, and why do you think this is a ridiculous
So
poll question,
let's break
sir?
these down. Okay, so Ryan Leaf, failed quarterback. Obviously, he's had his own personal issues. He's come out of that, and that's great. That name means nothing to anybody. Barry Bonds, whether he was on the juice or not, still the record holder.
I'm sorry, sir. Whether he was or not.
Listen, he was never,
Wait a minute. I want to go. Let him finish because I want to go back to what he just said about
this
Ryan
could be
Leaf.
a while. Yeah,
okay.
no.
Dick
Not a name,
Vitale,
no.
legend. Like, obviously old now, a little, like, crazy, but still, like, if Dick Vitale says you are good, that's a compliment.
Okay.
And then Drake may not know a lot about sports, but for your social following and for your, like, reputation, that's great. I mean, he kind of rocket strapped Zion Williamson and introduced his name to a larger audience, wearing the jersey on Instagram.
Sorry, that was Rocket what?
Rocket strapped.
Rocket
Yeah,
strap.
I
Okay.
thought I misheard that too.
No, it's like
It makes sense. I'm with you.
All right,
Yeah,
hold on. I want to go
understand.
back to what he just said because it's kind of fascinating. How old are you? 20?
21.
He wasn't around when this just dawned on me. Ryan Leaf is the Ryan Leaf era.
Yeah, he doesn't understand.
Is 20 years old. When you
Right.
say his name is irrelevant, you don't understand Ryan Leaf.
Right.
Like you don't. Yeah, it's kind of that's actually a fascinating start with that
This is why we have the students
because
in.
of the
Getting
connotation.
the perspective.
Because of the connotation of Ryan Leaf's name.
Okay, let's get Claudia in on the conversation. Ryan Leaf, what does that mean to you?
You
Okay,
know who
fair
Ryan
enough.
Leaf is.
That's a nothing. That's a nothing burger. Got it.
Like
I got no
have
problem
never,
with that.
and I know we're gonna do something in a few minutes where y'all are gonna try and make me feel old. I've
No,
never
no.
felt older doing this program than I just did right now. When she looked at us and was like, "Is that the name of some kind of lawnmower
No, but
company or what
that
is
makes
that?" Like,
sense from her perspective.
but I didn't realize that. Like as we're doing this poll this morning,
Because
Yeah.
the only way that she would know Ryan Leaf is if it had a completely negative connotation, right?
We
That's
only
the
know
only
him
way
as
you
the
know.
draft bust Ryan Leaf.
Right.
The guy that never ended up anything, and then he had some old personal issues, and that was it.
Right. Okay, that makes sense from your perspective.
Yes, from
you
my
guys being
young-
the students.
Feeble, immature perspective.
I love it. Speaking of that, what have you been doing this week? What did you do, I guess, almost a week ago in
Yes.
Charlotte, sir?
So there is a wonderful event, and it is called Rough and Rowdy. If you're not familiar, it is
Bill, have you heard of this?
yeah.
yeah, it's a NASCAR thing.
Jen, are you taking offense to that? She just shook her head.
Carl Edwards will want it, right?
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you just keep
No, Rough
talking
and
there,
Rowdy is
little
when they
man.
fight in the pits at the end of the race, right? They start tossing helmets.
Claudia, have you heard of Rough and Rowdy?
From him, yeah.
But only from him.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So explain more about Rough and Rowdy, sir.
So for those uneducated, Rough and Rowdy is an amateur boxing event that is put on, I believe it's once a month. And you can go, and if you have a compelling enough story and an opponent, you can pay $50. You get 3 1-minute rounds, and if you win, you get $500.
Okay.
Bill,
To
what does
toot
this
it.
sound to you like?
They made a movie about it back in the day. Fight Club.
No, that's not what it sounds like to me.
Exactly what this is.
Jen, are you familiar with the old Tough Man contests? It looks like a no. That's what it
No,
sounds
not
like to
really.
me.
You're
And
hating
if-
yourself a little bit here.
Not
Oh, I'm
only
an old
that,
dude.
but John just
Unfortunately.
broke number one rule of Fight Club. Don't talk about it. And you were talking
no,
about
no,
Rough
no,
and
no.
Rowdy.
They
live
put
stream
it
it.
up on the internet. This is something that Barstool has done, right?
Barstool is in conjunction with them. It's a 2-day event, so it's actually like a tournament. But Barstool broadcast the first day.
Oh, okay. So and this happened just recently in
yeah,
Charlotte. So
Rough
you
and
went.
Rowdy 3 was in Charlotte.
And this had a Carolina Clemson component to it.
Oh, yes. So the fine gentleman over at Barstool USC brokered a deal with the squares in the upstate, Barstool Clemson, and we both brought a fighter to the table, and we had a match. And I'm going to tell you this: it did not go well for Clemson. There was a gentleman by the name of Clemson Carl, who his name is not even Carl. I guess he's going for the Clemson Tom route, where I'm just going to put my school's name in front of my name. But
You
it's
listen
not,
to that, Clemson Sean?
Yeah, Clemson Sean, Clemson Carl, Clemson Tom, all of them. I don't get it. Is Sean's name even really Sean? Do we know?
No idea.
Okay. Well, anyway, it did not go well for Clemson Carl. The guy that we had was one of those guys that you see him in the bar and you know that he's looking for a fight, and he came out ready. And I think Clemson Carl got knocked down 6 times in a 3-minute fight.
A win, a victory
A win
for Carolina
well,
against Clemson.
and it was funny because like that day, Carolina Club Lacrosse also played Clemson, and they won like 12 to 9 or something. So it was a big day. One of my friends was like, "This is going to be the final day we ever lose to Clemson in anything. Like this is the turning point. Amateur boxing and club lacrosse."
Take that for what it's worth. The dramatic conclusion of the student section program, including athletes getting paid.
Oh, boy.
They're going to go at it. It's coming up next. It's the early game. It's 107.5 The Game. And we haven't even gotten to Fortnite yet, making Bill feel really old this morning with our students here. The student section segment continues with Claudia and John.
You guys seen, when I say Fight Club, who are the 2 actors in Fight Club?
No way they know this.
It's Brad Pitt and Edward Norton, right?
Wow, impressive,
better.
John.
That's a great movie.
Claudia's just shaking her head. Good for you, Claudia. Now, you do have a speech coming up. She came in this morning a little concerned, saying she's got to study way too much here in the final few days before graduation. Your speech will be a persuasive speech about paying college athletes. You are persuading us this morning that they should not be paid.
Correct.
Please, give us your best pitch.
So I feel like, first of all, the student athletes are getting already a majority of scholarships. They're getting a lot of things already paid for. They're bringing in a lot of money, but they're still getting a lot in return, just not in monetary, like physical money. And then they're also, my biggest thing is, how are you going to determine players who you have one player who's like Asia Wilson, and you have one player who nobody knows who she is. She plays like 5 minutes the entire season. How are you going to justify paying the athletes, paying somebody who leads a team to national championships? Everyone knows them. Like, they are the ones contributing the most. And then how are you going to pay the same athletes who are spending that same amount of time going to practice, being at the games, but they're not physically contributing as much?
A legit issue, John. You're on the other side of this issue, so how do you solve that?
So I'm going to break
first?
this down point by point. Number one, I would venture to say, and this is a guess, around 75% of the degrees that student athletes are getting are only done for them to stay eligible. They're not actually getting anything out of this. They're put in classes that are easy for them so that they can stay eligible and then move on and go to the draft. So the education for most of them and there are a good bit of student athletes that come in under academic standards for most universities. So they're really not getting all that much of an education out of this. They're just passing these classes and moving on. When you get down to the compensation aspect, just because you don't know the exact way to do it doesn't mean you shouldn't. They still, regardless of who's on the court, these teams bring in all this money for the university. I mean, you've seen there's been like multiple opinion as to which way you should do it. You could do it open them up to allow them to get endorsements route, or you say that everybody gets a cut of however much that team brings in for the university. I think there's multiple options, but to say that this is an amateur sport when we know good and well how much money the NCAA is bringing in and how much even South Carolina as an athletic department is bringing in off of ticket sales and ads and TV money, I mean, it's through the roof. And for students to be getting none of it in a business now, the business of college athletics, I think is preposterous.
It's impressive. I disagree with both of them.
What do you disagree about?
That's what you'd never ask him.
You're wrong. If you go to college, you're 17, 16, 17, 18 years old, take a little bit of ownership on your life. Figure out what you want to do. Don't tell me 75% of those.
Sometimes they don't get the chance.
No, you go figure out. If you're going to college, you got a free education. Figure out what you want, make the most of it.
Right. Get in engineering and see what the football staff
doesn't
says
matter
about
if
that.
you.
Yeah, exactly.
Josh Rosen did it. You're telling me everybody can't do it?
No, there are multiple accounts of athletic departments talking their athletes out of taking harder degrees just so they can stay
Take
eligible.
ownership of your scholarship, and 2, they should be paid. It doesn't matter. you can't treat everybody the same way. Asia Wilson brings in more money than the 13th girl on that bench for the University of South Carolina. Jake Bentley brings in more money than the third-string left tackle. That doesn't mean you got to pay them the same, but the bottom line is those players nowadays, they need money for gas, for meals, for everything else. I know you got a training table and everything else, but I do think there should be some kind of compensation. We kind of discussed that before previously with maybe giving them a stipend that comes out maybe $500 a month that they can use for their own accord, whatever they want.
And how many years did it take you to get out of University of South Carolina, Bill?
5.5 with a history degree, and I'm doing a sports talk radio show.
Incredible.
And that's the end of our
And I
student
paid for it.
section.
My dad paid for every one of those years.
Thanks for listening. Hour 3 coming up.